All right, so I figured because I want to do a quick alteration to this knife to fix an issue, that I would also showcase how a backlock or a lockback works. So nothing special here. This is a Bird Cara 2 8CR13 MOV. Nothing super special. Great budget knife. The injection molded handle version, and plenty of great stuff to say about it other than the opening hole, which is ugly and stupid, but to each their own. We all have our taste, right? The action right now is actually really nice, but it is a little bit loose. There's some side to side, but there's a couple things I wanted to discuss about lockbacks and also about this particular issue that I'm having, or I'm about to have with this if I don't address it, and how you can fix it. This does not pertain only to lockbacks. It can happen to all folding knives, just kind of how they're designed. But with the lockback here, it'll be super easy to fix. Famous last words. But anyway, so a couple of things here. The first I wanted to note is, because we're going to be talking about how lockbacks work, I did want to point out that as you put positive angle pressure on lockbacks, you will notice that the whole blade and the lock bar will kind of shift upwards as you're applying pressure. Hear that? And this is just kind of a nature of how lockbacks are. This is one of the things that with the triad lock, where Cold Steel, Andrew Demko and them, when they put in the pin for the triad lock, this is one of the issues that pin actually solves. Other than that, it's not really a big deal. So if this is happening to your lockbacks, it's not like, oh my God, my lock's going to fail. It's just a little, let's see if, hopefully the microphone could pick that up. Anyway, it's just a little thing. Other than that, I mean, lockbacks are super secure. Great for people who are going to be a little bit ignorant with their knives, potentially first-time knife people. There's just a lot of benefits to lockback. However, since I'm going to be tightening the pivot and we're going to be discussing an issue I'm about to be having with this knife here, I figured I'll just take it apart and I'll showcase the internals of a lockback. Although there's plenty of channels that have done this, so not really showcasing anything new. But what I want to address is, I have not sharpened this knife a bunch. I've done it a couple times, but nowhere near to where I should be starting to have this issue. But if we look and we follow the tip, let's see if maybe... So pay attention to where the tip is as it sinks into the handle. So unfortunately, because there's a shadow there, it looks a lot deeper into the handle than it actually is. But with my eyeball, what I'm seeing is that when the knife stops moving, when it's fully seated, right, the tip is only buried into the handle up to where the shoulder starts here on the edge bevel, or the secondary bevel. So right where that shoulder starts, right there at the very tip, that's the amount of the actual tip that's actually in the handle. Pretty soon, what's going to happen is the tip will stand proud of the handle. This is exaggerated, but this is what's going to happen. And it'll be fully seated, and this will no longer be safe to carry because I need the blade to sink further into the handle. So we're going to address that, and I've already taken steps to do that. And on this knife, along with many lockbacks, the way they achieve the stop so that the blade doesn't just keep dropping into the handle is they're using this tab here on the ricasso. So I've put Sharpie on it, and you will never be able to see this due to the lights. Yeah, maybe you can see it. But I just put some Sharpie on it, closed it a bunch of times, and then you just look for where the Sharpie has been worn off, and you attack that with a file. File time. So I'm going to disassemble this. I'm going to hit that with a file and just start taking that down. And because this will get moved up, the blade will be able to sink further into the handle, solving my issue. So I'm just going to disassemble this real quick, and we will come right back. What I wanted to show you is right here in the steel liner. This is a plastic tab or nub, and what this is doing is it's part of this whole structure down here that supports the spring bar. And what can happen is that if you leave this all assembled like it is and try to just lift the scale off or the liner off, what can happen is over time this little plastic nub will get chewed up, because what happens is when it's only supported by one side, it wants to angle like that. That's obviously quite dramatic, but as you're lifting the liner up, as it wants to angle, it's going to eventually chamfer the corner, and that can lead to a mushy lockup and stuff like that happening. So one of the things that you can do is you can try to push out the axle or the pivot for the actual lock bar. You can also do the same for the blade. You can push that out and then try to relieve pressure here. The only thing that you need to be careful about when doing that is that you don't want to leave your washers in a position that they can get pinched by the lock bar. So I'll finagle with this and we'll see what happens. All right, so I just decided to push the pivot pin out to relieve some pressure. Super tiny bronze washer on that side, or actually looks brass. Doesn't quite have that bronze color to it. We can see here is what's your basic lock back. Here is the little support down here made of plastic that I talked about. And you can see this very wide V-shape bar spring here pushing up on the tail end of the locking bar. But conversely, because it's doing that, it's also going to be pushing down on this little plastic piece. See that? And so if you don't alleviate tension, the more you take this apart, the more that tiny little nub right there will get worn away, and it will affect the action, and it'll just be a bad time. But anyway, here is your lockup. So as it comes around, just going to sink right into that little cavity. And what Demco and Cold Steel did is they simply put a stop pin right about in this area. They also changed some of this geometry too, but that stop pin helps alleviate all the pressure going backwards into the lock bar, and it just kind of makes everything a lot more secure. If we fold this down, we should be able to see the issues that I'm talking about here. Okay, so perfect. So see how far the tip is in the handle. Now it's a little bit better here than it is when it's fully assembled. But notice that right here, this is where the blade stops, so it can't go any further into the handle. And notice we have tons of room in here, so we can go further. And I just want that tip to sink just a little bit further into the handle because, again, when this is fully assembled, it doesn't seem to want to sink that far. And I'm just not comfortable with where it is, and I don't want it to ever become an issue. So we're going to address this. We have our mark that we made beforehand. All I'm going to do is attack the white, so to speak. As I didn't do a good job of explaining it before, this was a preventative maintenance thing. As you sharpen a knife, you wear away steel, making the edge move up your blade and making your tip also move up and recess back. This is what's going to cause a future issue if I don't address it now as I continue to sharpen the knife, and so that's why I was doing this modification. Now again, I'm not looking to completely file the nub off, right? Because this is how it stops. I want to just bring the dimensions down a little bit so the blade will fit further into the handle. We have sunk much further into the handle now. If I take the blade off, and the black mark is just the leftover Sharpie that I haven't hit. So there we go. When I bought this tube, I forgot how much it was. It's like $5 or something. I thought it was going to be like half the size that this thing is. It was quite large, and I'm happy about that. So I'm just kind of throwing some lube around the pivot for the lock bar. The lock will also rub along the liners here, so you don't have to do this. I'm just doing it to add some extra lubricant. And I have this stuff here, so why not? The washers will rub right here along that liner there. Might push that flush. Bring in our pivot pen for the blade. Get a hint of lube on him. And if you find that this white lithium grease is a little too thick for you, meaning that it slows your action down a little too much, you can cut it with just normal oil. Got the world's smallest freaking brass washers here. And as you can see, because I have plenty of lubricant here, I can actually just kind of sop it up from the side and rotate my washer here and just make sure everything's nice and coated. And then on the blade, I am going to want to take a little bit of this lubricant and spread it along the tang here. Again, not super duper necessary, but it will make the action all nice and smooth. Again, because this stuff is much thicker and sort of like a cream in sort of its texture, so that the running joke between me and my friend is that it's like lotion. It will stay in place much more readily than your standard oil lubricants will, and it lasts for a really long time. So it's really good at protecting the parts as well. So it will provide a gap that water can't get into as easily. And then even when you look on the packaging here, multi-purpose, all-weather, supposed to be water resistant or waterproof. Obviously meant for more automotive stuff, but this stuff is quite frankly great in terms of just making sure everything's really nice and buttery smooth. All right. Get you back in your hole there. And then we will, there we are. Get that all assembled, and we will try and see if we can sneak the, I guess it would help if I evenly lubricated this thing. Now I know some people get really bent out of shape about, oh my gosh, there's too much lubricant. It's not really a big deal. Got it. All right, go to the other side. Go through the other side, please. All right, it just took a little convincing. But everything's together. Function check again. Way too tight. That's okay. The tip is much further in the handle now, so I'm happy about that. That at least wasn't a fruitless endeavor. So, as I mentioned earlier, I was having some side-to-side blade play, and that probably occurred because the pivot was loosening up, because it was quite loose by the time I started taking that out. So I'm going to probably going to end up taking that pivot out and reapplying some thread locker, which I'm actually going to use some clear nail polish. Now, the reason I'm going to do that is, for one, it's very cheap. And two, it doesn't quite have the holding strength that actual Loctite does. Oh, look at that. These ones are ferrous. So there we go. Just put some nail polish on there. And with this, I find that you kind of want to get to be a little bit tacky first. So just blow on it a little bit to get it to be kind of gummy and sticky, rather than actually in more of a liquid form. I find that that works a little bit better. And with this white lithium grease, at first it will be kind of slow. It will thin out, and obviously it's going to spread around and go where it needs to go. So there we go. I mean, close enough. These things are almost never centered anyway, so it's favoring the show side just a little bit. But as I said, they almost never we are reassembled. We are back together. No side to side. And the tip is now well secured within the handle. Before it was about here. Now it's there. So we have plenty of room in there. We are not hitting the edge anywhere, because of course we could see the whole thing apart when it was, or we could see the whole blade path when it was apart and everything. This will work in terms of the lubricant, and I'll have to resharpen it, but that's okay. So I hope you guys liked that video. I know it was kind of all over the place and I had to finagle with some stuff, but hopefully you learned a thing or two, or you know how backlocks work if you didn't before. And thanks for watching whatever the hell this was.